The problem of falling asleep has always bothered me for as long as I can remember. In my younger years, I had a few sleep studies and was prescribed a variety of sleep aids. Herbal teas were even suggested by my therapist and doctors. My sleep issues didn't let up until last Christmas when one of my more distant relatives bought me a white noise machine. The machine had a nice sleek design and simpler controls than what I'm used to with my previous machines. When everyone had gone home from dinner, I brought everything I got to my home and began unpacking it all. Even though there wasn't much, I was happy with what I got. Even if most of the gifts were sweaters or bright socks, I was glad to see family again. The noise machine was the last thing I unpacked. On this wooden fold-up table I'd been using as a nightstand, the machine was set up next to my stock of essential oils for the diffuser, which I also used for sleep. As I said, the machine's controls were simple: on, off buttons, volume button, auto shut-off time, and what noise to play. It had buttons labeled rain, thunder, brook, ocean, white noise, and summer night. I turned it on by pressing the top power button and started playing Summer Night Noise. It started playing what sounded like crickets, light wind, and the frequent distant chirp of frogs. As I listened to this noise, it brought back memories of camping trips with my grandpa, who passed away just a few months before Christmas. In the coming weeks, this would be the sound I played when I went to bed. After a couple melatonin gummies, a hot herbal tea, and the diffuser running, the noise machine worked better than I expected. Finally, I fell asleep faster than I had in the past. I woke up on time, and I got into a much healthier sleep routine. It was about 2 or 3 weeks ago when all this changed for the worst. In the afternoon, I played video games and read books from the library before going to bed. As I ate my gummies and drank my hot herbal tea, I turned on the noise machine and rested down in bed. I closed my eyes for what felt like minutes until I opened them again. Using my eyes to scan the room, I could tell time had passed because my room was much darker, only faintly illuminated by my diffuser's color-changing light. This night, something woke me up. Because of my sleep problems, I often woke up suddenly in the middle of the night, but not once since I started using the noise machine. As I scanned the room, nothing seemed amiss, but just as I was about to close my eyes again, I heard a noise. It sounded like whispering, very faint but close enough to hear. Although it sounded like a discussion, I couldn't understand what was being said. As I tried to ignore it and just go back to sleep, I could feel goosebumps on my arm, and I felt very uneasy. In an attempt to ignore the whispers as they continued, I closed my eyes again, but was suddenly jolted awake by what sounded like people screaming. I heard both men and women screaming, followed by scraping and what sounded like an inhuman screech or roar. Immediately I sat up, grabbed my noise machine, ripped it from its plug. My heart beating out of my chest and my heavy breathing were the only sounds in the room now. Sitting there holding the machine in my hands, I contemplated and thought about what I just heard before I set it down. I sat staring at my wall for hours after I calmed myself down and tried to keep my head straight, wondering if what I just heard was a dream. In the morning, still shaken, I came to my mom, who just got out of bed, and told her what happened. She said that what happened must have just been a result of a really bad nightmare, and told me that she'll have my dad look at it when he gets back from work. I spent the whole day trying to brush off what happened, but the sounds just kept repeating in my mind over and over again. I couldn't read or play games in peace. That night my dad turned on the machine, and it played its normal sound: rickets, light wind, and the chirp of frogs. We waited to listen for a long while, and nothing happened. Despite my dad's insistence that it was fine, I argued with him about how I didn't want to use it at all after last night. He was frustrated but still gave me the machine. I decided to look into the machine myself and brought up a web page engraved on the bottom of the machine. After viewing the website of the company that manufactures the machines, I discovered that instead of using pre-recorded sounds on loop, the machines connect to broadcasts sourced from their own website for a more authentic and realistic experience. When I learned this, I became even more uneasy, because if what I heard was true, I had heard something that took place that night in real time. I wrapped the power cord around the machine and stuffed it into one of my closets. I've since moved house, and sadly many of my belongings were lost along the way, including the noise machine. It was a rough time for me at the time, but I worked it out and eventually learned how to fix my sleep problems without using sleep aids. My mind always goes back to that night, and I have only told my parents and closest friends about it. As far as the relatives that gave me the noise machine know, they still think I still have the machine. I don't plan on telling them about this, nor do I plan on bringing another noise machine into the house. I often have nightmares about that night alone, picturing the room it happened in, and me laying in bed, hearing the screams over and over again, and this time, they wouldn't stop. I would lie there listening to it on repeat without unplugging or turning it off, for when I'd suddenly sit up in bed would it stop, and I'd get up to go to work.